Hey everyone, welcome to 24 Chambers of Film. In this video, we're going to be giving you 31 horror movies to watch this October for Halloween. If you're like us, we love to watch horror movies, especially during Halloween time, and we try to watch one horror movie every day of October. So with that said, we're going to get into this list. None of these are in any particular order, and they cover all different types of genres. Steven's going to start off, and we'll just alternate till we hit 31 movies, with the last one that we both agree on. So, Steven, go ahead and kick it off.
All right, so I am going to start with the film Dead Silence from 2007, directed by James Wan.
She'll rip your tongue out at the seam.
James Wan, famous director from the films such as The Conjuring, Saw. This was his second feature film about, supernatural, deals with the dolls, ventriloquists. Very eerie movie, in my opinion. One of the last movies that really creeped me out watching it in theaters. I'm just not a fan of dolls. Dolls creep me out, but the film is very entertaining. It has good little comedic moments. It's a little absurd, but in the best possible way, in my opinion. It's definitely an underrated film in his filmography. But yeah, Dead Silence, I had a great time. I think it'll give you the creeps, and it's a good movie to watch during Halloween. It needs more love, in my opinion.
I'm not a fan of dolls, and that's why I haven't watched it. I just refuse to watch it. Okay. Refuse to watch it simply because of that fact. Anything that has to do with dolls, I'm not going to watch voluntarily.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I mean, look, dolls are creepy inherently, in my opinion, especially like porcelain dolls and stuff like that. So, the dolls in this movie are really unsettling. They just, I remember after I left the movie theater, like it was late at night, me looking behind my backseat because there's a scene in the movie where. Well, there's a scene in the movie where there's a doll in the back seat or a doll, and stuff like a doll in the car. And I got that feeling like someone was watching me, and it really got under my skin. No joke. Me and my buddy that watched it, we were just very unsettled by it. And like I said, I don't like movies. That was in 2007. So movies don't really, that's probably one of the last ones that got me really freaked out after watching it. I mean, I wasn't having nightmares or anything like that, but like after the movie, I felt very, like kind of looking over my shoulder and stuff and just kind of unsettled. But you should watch it. I think you might enjoy it. Donnie Wahlberg's in it.
Maybe this Halloween it'll make the list. So I'll go on to my pick here. It's called I Saw the Devil. It's a Korean film directed by Kim Ji-woon. And it is about a cop who is chasing a killer, and there's a pretty big plot twist in the middle of this movie. I really cannot give it away. You can really simplify it. It's cop chasing a killer, and then in the middle, it takes a turn that you probably don't expect or didn't see coming. It stars Choi Min-sik, who is probably most recognized from Old Boy, the original Old Boy. You've probably seen him in a lot of other movies. He's in Lucy with Scarlett Johansson. Does a phenomenal job. The movie is just, again, one of those movies where you think you're watching one thing and then it just gives you a swerve, and then you're watching something that is now aligned with what you're watching, but it's almost like two things going on at once. And it's just, it's just a good movie. I enjoy it a lot. And I'm not a big fan of reading subtitles myself, but that's one that I will read with subtitles just because of how much I liked that movie. It's obviously Korean, as I mentioned. So unless you speak the language,
South Korean to be exact.
Sorry, South Korean. Sorry, not North Korean. They do make movies.
They do. Well, they do, but they don't show it to us. Right? We don't get to see them.
Well, no, they do make movies, but I think in all of them, King Jong, he's a superhero in every single one of them or something like that. But yeah. So the first one again is I Saw the Devil 2010.
Nice, great film. I really love that movie. It's very disturbing. I've known people that have seen it for the first time and have gotten mad at the person that showed it to them because how disturbing the movie was. Specifically, my buddy, he showed it to his wife, and she was very upset at him, where she had a hard time trusting him with movie recommendations with horror movies for a while, because the movie really fucked with her head, and she just got like kind of scarred watching it. It is a brutal film. It's a great take on the serial killer genre, and yeah, a great film. That's a great choice. All right, so my next film is My Bloody Valentine, 1981.
Take your pick. My Bloody Valentine.
Directed by George Mahalaka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he directed this film. It's a slasher film from obviously the 80s. Takes place on Valentine's Day. There was a Valentine's Day massacre done by this guy named Harry Warden, killed 5 minors, and then they basically banned Valentine's Day parties and stuff in this small town. Years later, I think like 20 years later, they're having another Valentine's Day. Someone comes back. Is it Harry Warden, or is it someone else claiming to be Harry Warden? But this movie's a great slasher, very underrated. I feel like, people know about it, but I feel like it kind of gets forgotten at times when people talk about the great slasher movies. It's definitely underrated in my opinion still. And it's just a great fun film with really great kills. It has a great ending, I think. I love the reveal of the killer at the end is really well done, in my opinion. And the characters, slasher films, they're hit or miss with their characters. I feel like this one, I enjoy most of the characters. They have good chemistry, and they're not like super forgettable, in my opinion. But yeah, this is a great slasher film. My Bloody Valentine, 1981 original.
Yeah, that's something you probably have to point out, that there is a remake.
2009 remake, yeah.
My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Yeah. So you don't want to watch the remake. You want to watch the OG one. Yeah, I've seen it. Again, I think it was back in the time when I think you could just do stuff and not have to worry about what anyone was going to say. So I think it just worked for movies back then. That's why I think those films, those slasher films from the early days, just transcend time still, as far as,
Yeah, I mean, the effects are great in it, the practical effects, the kills. Like I said, it's a fun movie with creative kills and stuff. Like the unrated version's even more awesome with the kills. But yeah, definitely worth the watch, in my opinion.
So the next one I'm going to pick is actually from 1972 by the legendary Wes Craven. It's The Last House on the Left.
4 killers on the loose. They meet in the last house on the left.
It is a movie about a family that goes to their lake house, and at the same time, a pair of criminals have escaped, and the police are after them, and they basically make this family's life a living hell as they're trying to get away from the cops. And then this family has a choice to make. They could either lie down and take it and not know what's going to happen to them, not know what their fate is going to be, or they can fight back. And it is just, I don't think they could get away with making this movie nowadays, unless they want to not have any distribution, maybe not rated or something like that. It is just gnarly. It's if you're not, you have to have somewhat of a stomach for, just because the violence back then just looked like, I feel like back then when they punched,
realistic.
When they punch somebody, they really punch somebody, like it's just, and it's not like, and I think the thing is, it's not anything supernatural. It's not anything, it's just potential real life scenario that could happen to someone. And I think that's what makes it even like creepier and more eerie. And it's like, what would you do in that scenario? Right. And just stuff you don't want anybody, no one should wish upon anyone, basically happens to people in this movie. And again, it's just kind of one of those movies that
also, it's something that could happen to anybody. It's probably happened to people similar, like,
100%.
Not saying the exact story, but definitely there's been situations where people have gone through that horrible situation for sure.
100% that's happened to people. And it's like you mentioned, like when with I Saw the Devil, some people might find it too much for them, and I think this is one of those films, just because of how realistic it seems when you see when you see the stuff that happens. So there it is, 1972's Last House on the Left by Wes Craven.
Yeah, also, I mean, there is also a remake for this one, and I think a 2010 remake, which is not bad.
Yeah, the remake,
More accessible for sure.
This is one of the few times where I don't think the remake is as good as the original, but if you watch the remake, it's still good. It's just not as good as the original. A lot of times the remakes are just complete dog crap, but this remake wasn't. If you're gonna go with the remake, it stars Aaron Paul and I believe the guy that I keep forgetting his name, but he is the guy that came out in the movie Ghost, who kills Patrick Swayze, or who sets Patrick Swayze up, and he's also the president in the show Scandal.
Oh, okay. God, I haven't seen Ghost again. I know Garrett Dillahunt is one of the three perpetrators in the movie.
Tony Goldwyn is his name, the guy who portrays a president in Scandal.
Yeah, that's right. Totally Gold. Okay, I forgot he was in Ghost, but he's a good guy in the remake. He's the father of the house, the lake, the people that own the lake house. He's the father. Yeah. Before I move on to my pick, I mean, like Last House on the Left is a movie that was kind of like when I first saw it. It was a movie that like I always kind of seen it a long time ago, but I was nervous to watch it because I heard the hype kind of got to me of how gritty and realistic it was. It's also a very seminal film in my life because I lost my virginity after watching that movie. And it's always got a special place in my heart because of that. You're never gonna forget that. So. I know TMI, but it was. I feel like it was an important thing to let people know.
Let's move on to the next movie. Go on, sir, with your next pick.
All right, so my next film is I think it's a classic, Lake Placid.
Lake Placid.
From 1989, from the great journeyman director Steve Miner. He's directed some of the Friday the 13th films. This movie is basically Jaws, but with a crocodile. It has Bill Pullman. It has Brendan Gleeson. It has Bridget Fonda. It has Oliver Platt. Great cast. It's kind of in the comedy as well, comedy horror, you could say. I remember watching this movie in theater and absolutely loving it. It was a great theater experience. I felt like the crowd was into it. It's just a fun movie that doesn't take itself too serious, too seriously, but it still manages to have suspense and all that stuff. The crocodile is great. They do a mix of CGI and practical, and it works very well. That's why I think this film holds up, just like Jaws, because you got something physical in camera there for the actors to work off. And Betty White's in this, and she's hilarious in it. It's just a great film. Basically, they're trying to capture this giant ass crocodile that's killing people in their lake in Lake Placid. And it's just a fun film that I love watching. Like I said, this is a hot take. I prefer it more than Jaws, but I know a lot of people would disagree with that statement. But I go watch it. It's a fun film. You can watch it with the family. It's just a great time.
I mean, I don't know if you'd want to watch it with the family, just because
I think it's a rated R movie that's like you can watch with like, I'm not saying like put your kids, but like if your kids are like 10, they can watch this movie, I think.
Yeah, it is bloody though, because people do get eaten by a crocodile. So it just depends what people want to show their kids. I think you should probably give that disclaimer.
They can watch. I think the kids can handle it. I don't think it's like what's the word? It's not grotesque in my opinion. It's not a film that's
but you still see someone getting body parts ripped off.
I'm not saying it's rated R for a good reason, but I'm just saying it's a digestible rated R film. There's a lot more hardcore rated R.
But
films.
You said with your family, I think maybe like a
If the kid, I'm saying if your kids are like in middle school, they can definitely watch this movie for sure.
I remember watching this when it came out in 1999, and it came out like during the summer of '99. And it's like, I mean, we didn't live near a lake, but I was like, I'm definitely not going to any lakes anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think I was in like 6th grade in 1999 or something like that. So like, it was I loved it. I was so happy to see it. I think it was, it's a great time of a film, in my opinion. Like I said, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a fun film, and it delivers on the horror, and it has good comedy, in my opinion. Oliver Platt's performance, is great, and his chemistry with Brendan Gleeson is also awesome.
Up next for me is a movie named Fresh from 2022.
Forget this.
It was directed by Mimi Cave and it stars Sebastian Stan. And it is a movie about a girl who basically meets a guy and they go out on a date. And it turns out that he is not what he seems. And it's not giving anything away of the movie because it's made pretty
in the trailer,
on pretty fast. Yeah. But he basically keeps her captive because he is an organ and body parts dealer. And 90% of the movie takes place as she is captive. And it's her battle to try to survive, escape. And Sebastian Stan does a good job in this movie, kind of being a guy who is like demented, but then rationalizes what he does and almost tries to be charming at the same time. It's great. It's a newer movie, and it's one of those movies that went under the radar, but I think is pretty good for like anyone to check out, especially if they're looking for something that's intense and, you know, kind of makes you always think you never know who you're meeting when you meet somebody. So to me, that's
it's a Hulu
like
original too.
Oh, I didn't know it was a Hulu original, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I liked it a lot. And when I watched it, I had no idea what it really was. So as I was watching it, I was like, oh shit, you know, like
it's a good. I think if you can avoid just go into it blind, it would work even better than watching a trailer. You don't even need to watch a trailer; just go in there blind, and you'll get good surprises in there. I feel like it'll. I wish I went to it blind. Even though I saw the trailer, it still was like a good time. I still enjoyed it a lot. I feel like there was a lot to like in the movie. And Sebastian Stan and Edgar Daisy Jones. She's the main girl. She was in Twisters this year. One of the main girl in Twisters. She was great.
You know, before Twisters, so Twisters was probably like her biggest break right up to this point.
No, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's where people would know her from now is from Twisters, but this is before that for sure. And they're both phenomenal in the movie. I think they have a really great banter and chemistry. And yeah, Sebastian Stan, I think he's a great actor. So if you're a fan of his, you'll definitely like his performance in Fresh. All right, so my next film is a Japanese serial killer film called Cure. 1997 by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. It's like I said, a serial killer film. Basically, there's these murders going on where people are doing these random murders, different people not connected. They have no history of violence, but they're doing these murders. And the one connection is that they leave an X in the throat of the person that they kill. It's very intriguing premise, very eerie, very unsettling. And I think Koji Yakayusho, he's the lead investigator, and he's trying to solve these murders. And it's very eerie, very unsettling, very hypnotic film in my opinion. And it just lulls you in, and you're intrigued. You want to know who is doing this because it's very random the way the murders, and it's people. It's not just, you don't know is like who's influencing these people to do these acts of violence. Very intriguing film. It's just as good as like Seven and stuff like that. And I think it might be on the Criterion channel if you want to watch it, or you can buy it on Criterion collection. Very awesome film. Doesn't get enough attention because it's, I think it now is starting to garner some more attention because of the release on Criterion and stuff like that. But very awesome film, very well made. It's kind of a slow burn, but the type of slow burn that keeps going and you're still with it and you feel like there's forward progression throughout the story. So I loved it. This movie is amazing. Have you seen it?
So I had a phase where I was watching like a lot of Japanese, horror movies. I could never imagine going back to that phase and watching them because a lot of them are like so extreme,
Japanese horror is very, very disturbing. I
saw it back in like the early 2000s. I haven't seen it since then, but it is. I remember it being I remember everything I watched back then. I was so intrigued by it, but now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't think I could watch them nowadays. Like, just because I'd be like half the time, But, speaking of Japanese movies, let's roll this into my next one, which is 1999's Audition. which is another Japanese horror film. It is directed by Takashi, I believe you pronounce the last name Miike. And it's Miike. So I don't know if it's Mike or Miike.
I think it's Mink or Miike. Yeah, something like that. But okay. You're essentially right.
Yeah. So essentially it's about this guy who is a film producer and his wife passes away. So they end up doing like this casting call, and he falls for one of the girls who comes to the casting call. Is very like mysterious and kind of
for a fake audition to be exact.
Yeah. Too. So it's sorry. So it's I don't want to call it like a casting couch, because when people think casting couch, they think
think something
adult stuff, But it's basically so he can try to get back onto the playing field. So he ends up going on a few dates with her, but she's very obsessive and she's got like a dark past, and the ending is kind of like a mind F, and it's got that Japanese, gore or disturbing, like just stuff that you wouldn't see in an American film, or at least not in a mainstream American film, right?
Yeah, like definitely not. Yeah,
very, very rare. I can't think of one that comes to mind right off the bat, right? And it's if you're out there looking for someone, it might make you think twice, or at least reconsider every person that you're currently talking to, because it is just, again, these are movies that there really is nothing to give away. You just got to go in there and watch them. And if you can't handle shocking kind of imagery, and when I say shocking, I mean just stuff that is a little bit not what you're used to seeing in Western world. You're probably going to be.
It's not even like stuff like overly graphic. It's just that what's happening is just very uncomfortable and unnerving, and it's just like disturbing.
It's just like psychological,
psychological. I love this movie. I think it's a great movie. I showed it recently to my wife, and again, she's someone that has a difficult time with subtitles, like with horror movies and stuff, but she'll watch them, and this one hooked her, and she wanted to finish it. So. Very disturbing movie. She'll probably never watch it again, but it was definitely, some movies you need to watch at least one time. And I think Audition, I think it should be watched more than once, but this movie that I feel like a lot of people might be like, this is it. One time watch is good for me, and then never have to see it again. But I think it's great. It's an awesome movie. All right. So my next film is Climax. From 2018, directed by the great Gaspar Noé. He's an Argentinian French filmmaker. He's done some great films. This was not his newest, but one of his newer films. It's based on a true event, but it takes place in the 90s. This dance group that dance to like electronic music. They're practicing in this area where it's snowing outside. It's very cold outside. And, very great dance sequences in there. It seems like a fun movie, like, oh, everything's going great. Somebody decides, they're also having a party after they practice, and somebody ends up spiking the punch with hallucinogenics, with LSD or some type of, hallucinogenic. They start drinking the punch, and then it turns into a horror movie, essentially. I'm not going to say what exactly happens, but it's very anxiety inducing. I saw this in the theater. My heart rate was super high once because it's just like something that could happen, and obviously based on a real event did happen. And I know it's happened to people in general, just you're getting your drink or food, whatever, spiked, and it turns into one of the worst nights of your life. And this movie is just an anxiety ball that just keeps piling up, and you're just, part of me is like, you kind of want it to stop, but you're also enthralled because of the visual aesthetic and the style that Gaspar Noé does. It's in French, the movie, so it's also subtitled. But yeah, this movie's intense. I mean, if you haven't seen it, and you want something that's going to give you, a rush of anxiety, this is a movie that is very anxiety inducing, and it has some very horrific imagery and things that happen. And I love it. It's produced, A24 distributed it. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Have you heard of this movie? Have you seen it, Nate?
I've not seen it, but I have heard of it. I just, Just haven't gotten around to watching it.
Yeah, great film. Great film in my opinion.
Next for me is a 2000 horror. I don't want to call it a classic horror film, but I think it was that teenage horror where it's like geared towards young adults and teenagers, and it's Final Destination. It is directed by James Wong, stars Devin Sawa, Ollie Larder, Sean William Scott. Most people probably know Sean William Scott as Stifler in American Pie. And it is basically a movie about how you can't cheat death. It starts off and the class is going on a trip, I believe, to Paris. And one of the main character, who is Devin Sawa, has a dream that the plane blows up, and he freaks out that the plane's going to blow up. So they kick him and a few friends get off the plane as well. And the plane blows up. And after that, they were supposed to die in that plane and that plane ride, and so death starts coming after them. And it's one of those movies that obviously no one knows how death really works, but it makes you think, if it's your time, it's your time. Can you really avoid it, right? And I remember watching it, and I remember just really I was probably 16 when it came out, and I was just like, man, is that, you don't know what's true and what's not, but you're like, is that really how it works? If it is my time, and there's nothing I can do about it, it's just an overall fun movie. And like I said, it's more of a mainstream, horror movie, but it works very well because it's not your typical slasher movie. It's essentially something you can't see coming after you.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially a slasher movie, but with death, and the thing that really propels this franchise, there's 5 of them, by the way, but we're talking about the first one, is the creative kills, because death, he could kill you. I mean, the thing is, the reality has
everything at his disposal.
Yeah, but I mean, death is, he likes to have fun. He likes to play with his food, because he could have easily killed anybody and it was something simple, but he likes to, make it some elaborate it gets more elaborate as the movies go on, but the first one has some really good kills. Yeah, this movie really messed with me when I first saw it, because just the whole, first of all, I'm not a fan of flying. So the whole idea of the plane blowing up, all that stuff, it really fucked with me watching it. I remember the concept, just a great concept, very high concept. I loved it. But it's a movie that really, really messed with me. As I think I was so you were sick. You said you were 16. That means I was 12 when I saw this. Yeah, this movie messed with me big time. But I was a big fan of it. I loved it, but yeah.
And the second one is not bad either. If you watch the first one, I would say watch the second one. Then after that, you can kind of just stop paying attention.
Yeah, the first two are really strong entries in the franchise. The second one too, with the whole freeway, the playing on your fears, playing on things that people do every day. Very smart, and they execute it very well. But yeah, great choice. All right, so my next film is The House That Jack Built.
When I think about all the things I've done in my life without in any way resulting in punishment.
2018, directed by Lars von Trier. In my opinion, one of the great filmmakers, contemporary filmmakers. This guy, this is the type of guy who makes any type of movie he wants. He pushes boundaries. If you've seen any of his other work, he doesn't get held back by any studio or nothing. He does what he wants to do, whatever type of thing he wants to show you on in the movie that he makes. So this follows Matt Dillon. He plays a serial killer named Jack, and basically it chronicles 6 specific incidents in his serial killing career, and he looks at it through an architect type of way. Serial killing, also kind of very interesting metaphors for serial killing. It's just a very demented film. This film does not hold back any punches. One of the most brutal films I think ever made, because like I said, Jack, the character of Jack, he goes after all comers, children, women. It doesn't faze him. He goes after whoever. He has no moral compass. But it's also has some very funny parts because his character, there's a good evolution of the character, Jack. You know, he has OCD and it sometimes almost gets him caught, you know, but he basically, the movie, he's narrating his story to somebody, this guy named Verge, and they're going somewhere. And that's revealed later on. But the whole movie, he's talking to this guy and kind of telling him his story as they're going along this journey, wherever they're heading. But yeah, very well done. Uma Thurman's in it for a little bit, but Matt Dillon is a star. Riley Keough's in it too. But Matt Dillon, like I said, he gives a phenomenal performance, and just another reason why Matt Dillon is a great actor that I think is underrated and doesn't get enough appreciation. You know, I think he is capable of getting that Oscar. He just hasn't gotten it. But he's a super talented actor, and he knocked this role out the park. And like I said, Lars von Trier, if you're a fan of him, you'll definitely like this film, because this film has that same, he's a provocateur. He likes to provoke, and he likes to shock. But he does it he makes the movies very well. So he gets away with it, in my opinion. I don't know if you've heard of this movie or you've seen it.
I mean, I've heard you talk about it. The only movie of his, Lars von Trier, that I've seen is Nymphomaniac 1 and 2. And
oh yeah.
I mean, it was fine. I didn't do anything for me, but maybe I'll check this one out. I like Matt Dillon a lot as an actor, so
yeah,
worth probably checking out for him as well. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like I know you've spoken highly about this because it was on your list of like top 10 horror movies. So I definitely probably end up checking it out.
Look, it's a movie that I feel like a lot of people will probably never want to watch again after they see it, because whether they like it or they don't like it. Because especially if they don't like it, but if they like it, I like it. I've only seen it a couple times, but there's even parts that I'm just like, you know what, I'll just skip over to this scene, because there's just some stuff that's just like, it's just a little. You can only watch. I remember when I watched this in the theater. I was watching this in the theater, and it had a pretty packed audience, and out of nowhere, this one scene happens, and this guy, older gentleman, gets up. He's like, and he like says this really loud where everybody, he gets like, this is too fucked up. And he just like walks out of the theater, but like clear as day, because it's like dead silent during this scene. He literally says, like, this is too fucked up for me. And he just like leaves the theater. And I was like, it is fucked up what we're watching right now. It's pretty intense, but yeah.
I've only been in the movie theater one time when someone's walked out, and it was a classic.
Really? Okay.
Pootie Tang. It was literally.
I watched it in the theater with you, so I don't remember. I was too into the movie, so I didn't notice.
So it was myself, you, our cousin, and my dad, and there was two other people. Like
that's right. It wasn't a big crowd,
and we were the only ones in the back. Yeah. And they walked out midway through the movie, so it ended up just being us to finish the good old legend of Pootie Tang.
Yeah. Another thing about the guy walking out, it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things when that guy walked out of the film, The House Jack Built. He made me question my morality, or something. I was like, am I fucked up for still watching this? Like, I kind of have a thing. I don't walk out of movies. Like that's.
I know pity for the running kind.
Yeah, yeah. I don't walk out of movies. So, but yeah, I question me like, damn, am I fucked up for watching this movie?
The answer is yes.
A little bit. You got to be a little bit. But I mean, look, I'm not. I don't get distorted in my thoughts. I can separate what's reality and what's movies, So, but yeah, that guy couldn't handle it, and he's old. He's probably got too old for this type of shit to be fucking happiness in my thoughts.
It sounds like you're trying to just justify it. It sounds like you're trying to just justify now. Let's just move on.
I'm trying to something a little lighter. I'm not justifying. I'm trying to justify this old guy for walking out,
So let's move on to the next one, which is a little lighter tone in the horror genre. It's 1991's The People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven.
Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs.
Great film.
Wes Craven has so many great movies, and this to me is one of my favorite. And it could fall into the comedy horror genre because of Vin Rames is in it, and Brandon Quintin Adams, who most people would remember as the Nunez in The Sandlot. And they have a kind of like that big brother, little brother type of chemistry, even though the relationship in the movie is he's like the boyfriend of his.
Vin Rames is using him, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Vin Rames is using him, but it's just kind of like the dynamic is just comedy between them.
Yeah, true.
it makes it even funnier that they call Brandon Quintin Adams, his name is Fool.
That's
like
his nickname, yeah.
I don't remember if they call him Fool or if that's his name, but everyone calls him Fool.
His name
is Fool, right?
No, his real name is Poindexter.
No. Yes, Poindexter. I totally forgot. I knew it was something good. Yes, but everyone calls him Fool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, well, maybe I get why he goes by Fool.
Yeah. So in the movie, the landlord of their basically apartments or wherever they live, they want to break. Vin Rames talks them into helping them break into the house so they could steal some stuff because he's supposed to have they're supposed to be filthy rich and have a lot of stuff in there. So they break into the house and it ends up being a house of horrors, not what they thought they were breaking into. Yeah. And it basically, their heist turns into a story of survival for them. Yeah. And it's pretty dark when you really look at it overall in the context, but it has some very light and comedic moments. And Brandon Quintin Adams does a great job because he's 12 years old or something like that in the movie. Yeah. He's a young kid, and I feel like it keeps it light because it's a kid in the movie going through all of this essentially. Yeah. And it's just a good fun time. Like this is like a movie where I call like an entry horror movie for someone who's maybe trying to get their kids to watch horror movies. I think this is a good one that's not like it's dark because it has a dark concept.
Okay, you're talking about giving me shit about Lake Placid. This movie's way more fucked up than Lake Placid.
Doesn't have the same level of violence that Lake Placid has.
There's a guy running around in a Gimp outfit, dude. It's an
the violence, dude. You're saying that like if something like that happens in the movie, nothing like that happens in the movie.
Well, there's a guy
in a Gimp outfit. All right, you know what? It's a good one to watch. All right.
Yeah.
Let's continue this list.
Look, I love this movie. This is a childhood film for me. This is like a movie that kind of blew my mind when I first saw it because I felt like it was like so many things comedic, scary, a reverse home invasion film before like Don't Breathe, people go into the house and they went into the wrong house, and like I said, all the acting is great. The characters are great. They're remaking it. Jordan Peele's going to produce and remake it.
I didn't know that.
He's not directing it. He's producing it. So we'll see.
This is one of those that I don't know what you can really change to make it better. Like,
no, I think what they should do is, they maybe reduce the humor and kind of go more of a serious route. You can't really capture that. They did a perfect balance of comedy and horror in the original one. I think they need to try to go like a different direction in the sense of like the tone, a little bit darker, kind of like how Evil Dead, the remake, the 2013 one, kind of went on a darker tone and less humor with the original Evil Dead. I don't know. I'm very skeptical. Like this is a movie to me this doesn't need to be remade personally. So I'm very kind of a little bit annoyed by it, but we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't look terrible. Hopefully it's not terrible. I doubt it's going to be as good as the original. There was something caught. So magic was caught when they made that movie, in my opinion. So we'll see. I like Jordan Peele, but like I said, he's not directing it. He's just producing it. So whoever directs the movie, hopefully they're able to do a good job and at least do something different where it's not like a carbon copy of the movie, But yeah, great choice. Love that film. All right, so my next film that I'm picking is Body Snatchers.
Where are you going to hide? Nowhere.
Body Snatchers.
From 1993, directed by Abel Ferrara. He's the director of King of New York. You've seen that, right, Nate?
King of New York? I don't know.
Well, Christopher, I thought you have. Never mind. Anyways, Body Snatchers. This is another remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's like 4 of them. There's the 50s, the 70s, the 90s, and then in 2007, it's called Invasion, which was had Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. This is one of these rare movies that has been remade, kind of like A Star Is Born, that actually all of them are good. I think all the movies are good. Yes, they are weaker than the other ones. I think the one from the 50s, 70s, and this one, the 90s, are really good. And the 2007 one is not bad. It's just not as good as the 90s and the 70s and the 50s. But this movie's great. Basically, it takes place in a military base, and these aliens are body snatching the people at the base. One of the kids and families, they notice it. It stars Meg Tilly, which is Jennifer Tilly's sister. She's phenomenal in the movie. It's basically the younger daughter and her brother notice, and the dad, they start noticing that people are getting, acting strange at the base. And very great. Forrest Whitaker's in it, I'm pretty sure. Is he? Am I tripping? Yeah, he is in it. Yeah. So Forrest Whitaker's in it. It has a great cast. Everybody's great in it. It's just a great, eerie film. Meg Tilly has one of my favorite speeches in the film. That is so good. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Abel Ferrara also made Bad Lieutenant, so he's a filmmaker that also pushes boundaries, and he did his interpretation of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a great version in my opinion. So Body Snatchers, 1993, I highly recommend it. It's a movie that's underrated too. It doesn't get enough attention. Have you seen it?
I've seen a lot of the Body Snatcher movies, like the remakes. I don't even know which one's which at this point, but I saw them all when I was younger. So which one was this? What year was this one in?
1993.
Yeah, I think this is probably the first one that I saw based on the year that it's made, but saw it such a long time ago. And
you don't really remember it, yeah?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to. I just remember seeing it and kind of thinking again, when I was a kid, I saw it. I was like, I wonder,
Yeah. No, great concept. So the Body Snatcher idea,
So my next film is a 2006 remake of a Wes Craven cult film, essentially, The Hills Have Eyes. The original was made in the late 70s, I believe 1977. The remake was made in 2006. And this is one of those movies where, at least in my opinion, the remake is way better than the original. I feel that the remake, it pushed the boundaries for what you see in movie theaters, in wide distributed movies here in the States. I remember watching in the movie theaters and people were like, what the hell? And it's not meant, it was a full-on release, nationwide release. It wasn't an art house, or it wasn't, limited release. It was a full-blown release, and people were kind of what am I watching, because it's essentially a movie about this family that's on a road trip.
Yeah.
And Ted Levine is the dad. Ted Levine is the famous Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. And he takes his family on this road trip, and they're in New Mexico, and they end up basically falling victim to these mutants that inhabit this deserted region that used to be a nuclear test site. And it's just, they're being toyed with. Shit that you don't expect to happen happens. I don't want to give it away. It's not as disturbing as one of the Japanese flicks we mentioned previously, or I Saw the Devil. But it's pretty brutal for the average person to be I'm just gonna go see a scary movie on a Friday night, and then they walk into this. It's kind of messed up, and it has a unique hero, I would say, in that movie.
I agree.
Towards the end, they changed it up a little bit. But yeah, it's just one of those movies that I just remember watching and being holy crap! And I love taking road trips, and I've been in the situation where I'm driving and I'm in an isolated area, and I'll tell you one thing: I'm ain't no way in hell that I'm stopping anywhere unless I get to a bigger city. I make sure that I always have gas, and I make sure that I'm paying attention to everything I need to be paying attention, because I'm would not want to be caught in a situation like this. Obviously, I doubt there's, nuclear mutants kind of everywhere, but either way, you still got to play it safe.
No, definitely. Look, this movie is great. This is one of I agree. Look, I like the original Wes Craven one, but I do think this movie is a better version of that. Directed by Alexander Aja, who did your favorite movie, High Tension. No, but anyways, I won't talk about it too long, but this is a movie I remember showing this to my friend, and she loves horror movies, and I thought man, I'm gonna show her this movie, she's gonna freaking love it. She hated this movie with all her heart. She got so mad. There's a scene in the middle of the movie that I think really upset her. You know what I'm talking about, Nate.
Yeah, I know. I'm not trying not to give it away, so when people watch it,
I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm saying there's a scene in the movie, and this is where she turned on me. She turned on the movie after this scene officially, and everything that happened after, she watched it. I give her credit. She finished the movie, but man, when we talked about it after, she was like, I hate that fucking movie. She was like, fuck that. Why they use like she was like finding anything that they did. She hated the creative choice, like the song choice. Like it made her mad, and I was like, wow, this movie works. I was like, it really gets a reaction out of you, whether you like it or you don't like it. You get very strong reaction because it's very like upsetting what happens, because it's like almost avoidable. Obviously, like it's one of those things that obviously could happen besides like the mutant stuff, which is probably the most, non-realistic part of it. But yeah, it's a disturbing.
Sorry, and let me reiterate something. When we say mutants, we're not talking about like Ninja Turtle mutant type shit.
No, like disfigured because of the radiation and stuff like that. Yes, and they're living out there in the desert of New Mexico and stuff. Yeah, no.
Yes, it's not like
it's not superheroes.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, no, not even that. Yeah, it's normal people, but they've got effects from the radiation. I will say this though, the movie, for the messed up stuff it has, it doesn't push the boundaries. It just crosses a line just enough to make people upset. Because if you were to remove the scene that we're talking about, it becomes a lot more tolerable movie, I think.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It's like the lines right here, and it just puts a foot over the line, and then that's enough to get people, to.
Very upsetting.
Like it.
Very, very upsetting point in the movie for sure. But that's how the movie pretty much, you enter the second half after that scene, and then the movie keeps going and going. That's when you get a great arc with one of the main characters. But yeah, great choice. I love that movie. All right, so my next film is a film that I grew up watching. It's called Frailty.
Only demons should fear me. You're not a demon, are you?
2001, directed by Bill Paxton, the great Bill Paxton. It stars Matthew McConaughey, Powers Booth, and Bill Paxton's in it as well. It's basically, the movie starts off with Matthew McConaughey showing up at a FBI's agent's office, police officer's office, and telling him he knows who the God Hands killer is, right?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Hand.
The God's Hands killer. And it's a cold case that no one's ever caught the killer. So he says it's his brother. And basically he starts telling this investigator his story and how he knows that his brother is the killer. So it goes into depth. Bill Paxton is their dad. And he's like in middle school when this is going on. His brother's like probably, like 4 years younger, 3 years younger. And they don't have a mom. But basically one day Bill Paxton's character is a blue collar guy. He comes in one day and he says he saw a vision from God, or an angel came to him and spoke to him, gave him a list of people that these are demons disguised as humans, and he has to kill them. And he gave him a sign of what weapon to use and all that stuff. He tells his kids, the older one, which is Matthew McConaughey, he doesn't, really buy it. The younger one's more into it. And it's just a very interesting, kind of disturbing and sad story about this family deteriorating and eventually being broken up because of this thing that happens to the father. And you don't know if it plays it well, whether it's actually happening or if it's a psychological, and the dad had a mental breakdown. Is kind of crazy now. Very well executed. Bill Paxton directed the hell out of this movie. Has a great ending. I just love this film. Love it. It's a film that I think doesn't get enough attention. And you should watch it because it's a near perfect movie in my opinion.
It's really, really good. Honestly, there isn't much else to add to it. It's just watch it. It's a good movie. And like you said, I think it just kind of flown under the radar. And
definitely,
again, if you like Matthew McConaughey, then it should be a definite watch for you as well. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's not a romantic comedy, But
yeah, he's great.
It's a good movie. Like, there's no other way to put it. I think you summed it up perfectly. It's just a good movie, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. Next on my list is a classic. It is Tobe Hooper's 1974, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After you stop screaming, you'll start talking about it.
I always wonder if a younger audience is really familiar with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre now. Because I felt like when
they probably associate with the Netflix one, unfortunately.
Well, here's the thing: when we were growing up, Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like you even if you weren't into horror movies, you knew about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And to me, that revolutionized the slasher genre in a way because it wasn't, Leatherface is so iconic, right? Mm-hmm. And it just showed how you can make a movie, contain the set, I think, for most of it, and it still be great. And I remember seeing that movie and I had nightmares when I saw it the first time.
I mean, it's a movie that I think still is, I mean, maybe not scary. It's definitely disturbing, but as a kid, it's scary.
I definitely think it scares me because you think about, again, the possibility of where are you when you're driving somewhere and you don't know what could happen. I like just the grit of how that thing was filmed. It looks, it doesn't look pretty, and it's not supposed to look pretty because it's supposed to make you feel a certain way. So to me, like, I'm just like, God, such a genius idea that Tobe Hooper came out with when he made that film. And, I've driven all over Texas. Like I've driven almost every inch of that state. And I've driven through these highways where it's just nothing for miles. And I can't help but just think.
You probably drove where they shot it, which is
good for who knows, but I can't help but every time I'm driving through there, be like, damn, what if my car breaks down right here and I got to hike to the next house, Am I hiking to the next house? Or what am I doing here, But it's all jokes aside, it's just a good, like, movie that just gets under your skin a little bit because it could happen to anybody. And it just, again, if you look at it now, you might laugh, but it's a classic. It's a classic for a reason.
I don't think anybody, not say anybody, but I think most people won't find it. I think we'll still find it disturbing and unsettling because it feels very documentary. Like,
that's the good way.
But to me, it's still a beautiful looking movie. It's gritty and ugly, but it still has a lot of cool, beautiful shots in there. I was rewatching it not that long ago in 4K, and I love it. I think the movie it still holds up. I remember when I showed it to my wife, we went to see it at the theater. They were doing a classic night, and she was disturbed. She was like, this movie I felt like I was going crazy by the end of that movie because when she gets captured, Sally and stuff, like the stuff that goes on, it's just like it's a psychological torture movie as well in the like third act. What happens, and great. It's a classic. You can't go wrong with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're right.
And I'll say this, if you want to see a more modern version, the one that stars Jessica Biel, which was made in 2003, it's a remake of, the original. That one's not bad.
That's a solid remake.
That is a good remake. I know that the new one that Netflix did, a lot of people hated it. I don't think it's as bad as everyone says. It's not as good as the original. It's not as good as the 2003 one. But to me, you got to think they adjusted it for the times, right? And I think it fits what the times are.
I don't think that. Look, I just think they did it. I still think
it didn't need to happen. Let's put it that way. It didn't, because the first one was good. The remake was solid. Like, there doesn't need to be a third remake of this thing.
It's not a remake; it's a sequel. The Netflix one.
Sorry, it's a direct sequel, right? Like, that was the thing.
It's sequel. It's like a sequel to.
It's like a direct sequel, and I just.
That's a whole nother topic, but there's some fun parts, but overall I found it very frustrating and annoying, the movie.
Just stick to the original one, all right? 1974,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's move on.
So my next pick is The Burbs, 1989, directed by Joe Dante.
God, I love this street.
Tom Hanks.
I think we are overreacting.
No. The Burbs. It's one hell of a neighborhood.
This is a movie you can watch with your family. This is a family horror comedy. Tom Hanks lives in a cul-de-sac, and him and his neighbors get a new neighbor. And it's right next door to Tom Hanks's character, Ray Peterson, and the Klopeks, and they are very strange, very creepy, and everybody suspects that they are serial killers. So basically, like a good neighbor, they start snooping around, being nosy, and hijinks ensues. And are they killers or are they not? It's basically what's going on in this movie. And it has a great climax. Tom Hanks is amazing in this movie. Bruce Dern's in it. What's his name? Rick Duckham is in it. He's hilarious. Carrie Fisher, Corey Feldman. Great cast. Great chemistry by everybody. It's just a movie that's a comfort movie for me. And if you're trying to watch something with younger kids or like in elementary school, like you have a younger family, they can watch this movie. Very entertaining, very satisfying, great pacing. I love this film. Never gets old. Still one of my favorites of all time.
Great movie. I don't want to add too much because I think you pretty much summed it up, but there is a scene that I just have to mention that I love in that movie where Tom Hanks eats sardines and a pretzel.
Agree. One of the best scenes ever made. One of the best scenes with food. Yes. It is
freaking great.
It's so good that it makes me want to eat sardines with a pretzel, and I know I'm not going to like sardines, okay? But it always almost tricks me every time I watch it that maybe I should try it because the way it sounds, and I don't know why it seems delicious to me. But yeah, I'm sure it's not great to eat sardines with a pretzel. But yeah, great scene. I agree. I'm glad you brought that up.
I love it. The next one on the list for me is The Conjuring 2013, directed by James Wan.
My mom's bed.
Second James Wan film on our 31 movies to watch in October for Halloween. So this film stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and it is about a family who moves into a house that has evil spirits living there. It's supposed to be based on true stories on a real couple called Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were, I don't know, what would you call them? They're paranormal investigators, I guess, is the way to put it. Yeah, and they basically come in to see what is going on and try to help free this family from demon, spirit, curse, whatever supernatural entity is in here. It also stars Ron Livingston and Lily Taylor. And it's one of the more recent movies that I remember watching and it keeping me up like afterwards that night. It's got some great jump scares. It's the kind of movie that if you hear a creak in your house or something, and you just watch it, you're gonna be like, oh shit, what was that? I thought it was very well done. And again, it's just creepy. Like there's no more explanation. It's basically a house that's possessed, essentially, is a way to look at it, or that has supernatural entity there. And dude, everyone lives in a freaking house, So like, makes you start thinking about shit in the middle of the night, especially if you can't fall asleep.
No, yeah, it's a good movie. It sets up the scares really well. There's a lot of good scenes where they set up some good jump scares. The entity is creepy when it's revealed. I like it. It's a James Wan film. I think it's one of his maybe top 2 best of his filmography. Not crazy. The sequel's okay. Didn't watch the third one, but the first one you can't miss. It's a great film. All right, so my next film is another remake, Dawn of the Dead 2004, directed by Zack Snyder. Based off the original Dawn of the Dead from George A. Romero. Look, I've talked about this movie before. This movie's 10 out of 10. My favorite zombie movie ever. This movie is just a great action horror film. Survivors during a zombie apocalypse shack up at a mall to stay alive. And, it's them struggling psychologically and surviving and coping with the new zombie apocalypse that's happening. Their new reality has been Rames, Sarah Polley, Jake Weber, Mekhi Phifer, Ty Burrell, Michael Kelly, Kevin Zegers. And it's got a great cast. Everybody's phenomenal in it. Vin Rames, one of his most badass roles. It has one of my favorite character arcs by the Michael Kelly, this character named CJ. One of my favorites ever in any movie. The characters are like the standouts of this movie, and the zombies as well. They're running zombies. One of the first running zombies that came to be on that became a thing, you know. And it's just a well-made movie. Zack Snyder, still his best movie in my opinion.
100% agree with that.
I like other movies of his, but to me, he still hasn't topped Dawn of the Dead, 2004 that he made, written by James Gunn, who obviously is a big time player in Marvel and superhero movies. Great script by him. It would be great to see him do another collaboration because they literally created magic in this movie. Like I said, best theater experience of my life. I love this film. Go watch it. I think you'll love it. It's a great time.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but was there any CGI in this thing?
Yeah, there's some CGI, but the majority of it's in camera.
I thought it was like all practical effects. If there's any CGI in there, man, you cannot tell because of
there's stuff that's integrated, but it's not. The majority of it is all practical effects. It's not. It's very well integrated.
Bullshit CGI zombies like in World War Z.
Definitely not. No, definitely not like that. But great movie. I mean, to me, it's a masterpiece when it comes to the zombie film. But yeah,
100%. It's almost like it's almost you forget you're watching a horror movie. Honestly, when I watch it because of how entertaining it is.
Yeah. But also, it's just a remake should never be that damn good. You know what I mean? It's that good.
Tim, that's probably the best remake
for me for sure. That one and The Thing. But yeah.
Up next for me is David Slade's 30 Days and Nights. It is a vampire movie starring Josh Hartnett and Melissa George. And essentially, to me, it's such a clever idea. I don't know why anyone didn't do this a lot sooner because this wasn't made till 2007. But in Alaska, there is places where the sun doesn't come up for 30 days. So essentially, a group of vampires start using this as their hunting ground because it's dark for 30 days. And Josh Hartnett, who is the sheriff of this small town, he then has to save the town because majority of the town is evacuated and it's closed because of this 30 days of night season that goes on. And it's great because the way the vampires look, it kind of, to me, it changed the way people portray vampires in movies. It's got great action and just overall the story's great. And the visuals are amazing because it's set on this backdrop that's white snow. And obviously, there's blood and it just works so well, the contrast between that. And I think it's in my opinion, one of my favorite horror movies and one of the top vampire movies. For me, it's probably the top vampire movie that's out there.
No, great film. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. Based off a graphic novel. I mean, you said a lot, pretty much everything. You said it all right. I mean, it's a great film. Josh Hartnett's great. Ben Foster's great. It's just a great. I think it's like
Ben Foster's character. Ben Foster's character, the performance.
He's really good. Like you said, the vampires, they really work. They're creepy. They're scary. They're not glamorous. They're just there to kill. They're animals. I really like this movie a lot. My next film is a serial killer film called Memories of Murder, directed by Bong Joon-ho. This movie came out in 2003. It is, to me, if there was a masterpiece, this is definitely a masterpiece. Yeah, it's based on a true serial killer in South Korea in a small town. Basically, Song Kang-ho from the movie Parasite, he's in this movie. He plays the small town detective. And then the new cop from the city comes in to help with these murders that are going on. The killer's killing women, and they're usually wearing red. It's usually on a rainy night. So those are kind of like the patterns, the MO of the killer. But they're having a hard time. The movie takes place in the 80s, so they're not up to date with technology, especially in a small town. But the movie really gets into your psyche. It's very disturbing, very intriguing. It's also very funny at times. There's a lot of great moments with jumping drop kicks in this movie, which is hilarious. Like I said, Song Kang-ho is phenomenal in this movie. Has my favorite last shot in any movie. It's very just enthralling, poignant. It just makes you think. It's thought-provoking, the last shot. It really burns into your psyche, in my opinion. It's very cool. I love this film. It's a great mystery. Like I said, the kills are great. The suspense is great. The investigation element, the murder mystery element is very great. It's a masterpiece. I love this film. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's got more attention. It's gotten more attention over the years, but I think it deserves more. It's that great. Have you seen it?
I've not seen this one. I've seen Snowpiercer, which was made by the same director.
Yeah.
And I should watch it, so I probably going to be the one to try to hit this October.
I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have it on one of your streaming accounts that you gave me access to.
Maybe.
So I just have to watch it. So my next one is The Mist. It's based on Stephen King's novel. It's a 2007 film.
It was them who brought down the final wrath upon us.
We want the board.
That's what brought down the wrath of God.
Promise you won't let the monsters get me.
And it was directed by Frank Darabont. It is a movie, sci-fi horror movie, basically something supernatural or not really. They're not sure exactly what is going on, but something starts happening in this town, and a lot of people get mist shrouds the town, and there's things in the mist. And the main character, who is played by Thomas Jane, his name is David Drayton. He is an artist for movie posters, I believe. And he's at the supermarket when all of this starts happening. And he has a neighbor who he's had a dispute with. And he's at the supermarket. He's played by Andre Braugher, I believe is his name. And as all of this is going on, it really shows you how basically humans interact in the face of adversity, and how rather than siding with each other, they start falling apart, right? And
they're just as bad as the monsters outside of the movie.
Yeah, essentially.
Outside of the store.
It has one of the what the F endings I think that I've seen in a movie. And most people that I've had watch this are like, oh, this is great. And then they watch it and they're like, fuck you, why did you show me that? And it's just good. I mean, just the story itself is good. The ending is even what the F? That's all you really need to know. The Mist.
Yeah,
2007.
I love this movie. Directed by Frank Darabont, who did Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. This is his last movie that he did that's a feature film. Then he went into Walking Dead, making TV shows and stuff. He hasn't made a feature movie since, which is a shame. I wish he would go back to it, because he's
that Walking Dead money, baby. He doesn't need to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been on it for a while, but he did start the Walking Dead TV show. But he's a great filmmaker in this movie. I love Thomas Jane. He's a great actor, and like you said, the ending is a gut punch. And this is one of the rare movies where the CGI isn't aged the best, but it still works. I don't know how to explain it. That shouldn't make any sense, but it still works. It doesn't affect the movie. There is some practical stuff in there, but they definitely have a good amount of CGI with the monsters, the creatures that are in the mist. But it works. I don't know. It's one of the rare occasions where it doesn't affect my, and here's one thing. When they do the blood and stuff, it's practical. So that's what I think maybe that's part of it too, that makes it work. But I love this film. Definitely more people should watch it. So my next film is Dressed to Kill, a 1980 film.
The master of the macabre, who shocked audiences everywhere with Sisters, Carrie, now invites you to a showing of the latest fashion, Dressed to Kill.
Directed by the great Brian De Palma. It's a American Giallo film. So it's kind of like a slasher, kind of like a neo-noir, but it's a murder mystery, essentially. This prostitute witnesses a murder of this housewife in an elevator, and it's then the murderer, is trying to get her while the police is investigating, also thinking that she's the murderer. It has Michael Caine, it has Nancy Allen, Angie Dickinson, Keith Gordon, Dennis Franz. Great cast, very suspenseful, beautifully photographed. The editing and the music and just the way it's shot is just very, it's just a very beautiful film to look at. Very sophisticated filmmaking, in my opinion. One of Brian De Palma's best films. Like I said, great killing it and suspense. There's not really, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, because I could give it away. But basically, it's a great mystery as well. Very well done. A creepy killer in this movie for sure. Highly recommend it. Dressed to Kill by Brian De Palma. Have you seen it?
I've not actually liked Brian De Palma's films like Carlito's Way, Scarface, Untouchables. I mean, those are some of my favorites, but I have not seen this one, so probably one to put on the list for me to check out.
Yeah, definitely a movie that will be it definitely be a movie that's very hard to make nowadays because of the subject matter in the movie. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get into too much into it, but it definitely would have a lot of pushback with this culture that we live in now. But yeah, great film.
So the next one for me is 2005's Hostel, directed by Eli Roth. To me, this is one of those films that when you look at it, I'm surprised that it got such a big release as it did because of how violent it was, right? And I think it made a lot of people kind of think twice about traveling, especially to European countries. When it came out, it's a movie about backpackers who basically get abducted while in Europe and rich people pay to torture them. I mean, that's just the
torture and kill them.
Yeah, torture and kill them. That's the main plot of the film, and it has Jay Hernandez in it, and it's basically their story of survival in that. And I think it's a very clever film. I'm surprised no one had kind of come up with this. Every time I see like a movie in the 2000s that's kind of like a good fresh idea, I'm like, man, I'm surprised no one came up with this like a lot sooner. It's pretty incredible to actually think about that. And because again, nowadays you see a lot of remakes and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of not what put Eli Roth on the map, because Cabin Fever kind of was what put him on the map. But this was
put him on the map. Yeah.
This put him.
Yeah. Helped him get bigger. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And again, it's a bloody good time, essentially. You see some gross, kills or torturing and things like that. And there's a scene in there that involves an eyeball. Let me put it that way. That's all you need to know. If you're squeamish, not one for you. If you are going to have fear of like having this influence you, you're probably not going to want to travel for a while afterwards. But it's weird because Eli Roth does a very good job of making a movie like fucked up, but you're not looking at it as like it's fucked up a lot of the time. It's just entertaining, I think that's one thing that he does very, very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this movie, this movie's pretty graphic, pretty gory. I think before I'll say this and then we'll move on, but yeah, definitely watch this movie. But Eli Roth said that initially he wanted to do a documentary because he heard someone told him that I forgot what country that people go and you can pay to murder someone. Not the whole torture thing. He added all that, but like to just pay someone, shoot someone in the head and kill them. Like that, it's like a rich business, like a rich thing, I forgot what country he said, but he said he wanted to do a documentary about this, but they told him, you can't do this, dude. You're going to get killed if you try to do a documentary.
Yeah, like seriously. Basically, he's probably trying to show some, set up a murder, and people that murder people.
You can't dig in too deep because then your life is going to get in danger, which was like, damn, first of all, great idea. The concept is just phenomenal in my opinion. But yeah, I always found that interesting. Like, man, damn, that could have been a whole different, journey for Eli Roth if he would have attempted that. Probably would have been his last film. But yeah, you should definitely check it out. It's a fun movie. The characters are douchey, but at least one of they kind of redeem themselves a little bit. Well, at least one of them. but yeah.
So just side story on that thing. I was working with a guy who went to Myanmar, and when he was in Myanmar, like we were communicating, he's like, dude, you won't guess what happened today. I'm like, what? He goes, I was on the street and I started talking to a guy, and somehow we got into the topic of shooting like a grenade launcher. And they were like, oh yeah, if you meet us here at this field and you can shoot a grenade launcher. And they were like, however many, whatever their currency is, it was like $20, to shoot the grenade launcher. They're like, for like $100 they'll put a car and you could blow up the car. And for like $200 you could blow up a cow. And then he made a joke and he goes, how much for a human? And then he said that the guys went and huddled, and then the one guy that spoke English came back and he's like, $1,000 and you could blow up human. Just show up here at this address. And he's like, I didn't go. He goes, I didn't know if they were serious or they were joking, because there was no they didn't hint at them joking. Awkward. So he just he's like, I just didn't show up. He goes, I was trying to make, I thought they were gonna be like, ha ha ha, but they actually came back with an offer. So
you know what? I think it was Thailand. Honestly, really? Ross said. I think he said Thailand, but I don't hold me to it. I need to rewatch the behind the scenes of Hostel. Anyways, great choice. Definitely, I think it's a classic now. But yeah, so my next film is 1998's The Faculty.
The Faculty.
Directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by Kevin Williamson. It's basically Breakfast Club meets Scream meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's what this movie is, and it is a glorious treat of a film. I love this movie. It's a comfort movie, fun film. Josh Hartnett, Elijah Wood. It has Usher in it, even though he's kind of promoted like a main character, but he's very much a side character. He's very much a side character.
I remember the trailer perfectly.
Yeah. Salma Hayek's in it. Jon Stewart's in it. Great cast. Christopher McDonald. I mean, this movie is just a fun time. A great take on The Thing / Invasion of the Body Snatchers. A lot of riffing on those type of movies, but with that Scream filter over it. That 90s slasher type of feel. Great film. Like I said, great cast. Great music, directed wonderfully by Robert Rodriguez. Fun dialogue. I was just watching it again in 4K, and it looks gorgeous. And some of the just the disses and the language and the banter between the kids is hilarious. It's brutal stuff. That thing people used to say back then to each other. But I find it charming, and I love it. That's what I love about the movie. It'd be a lot more softer nowadays if they remade this. I feel like, unless the right filmmaker made it. But yeah, I always wish they made a sequel. I heard Robert Rodriguez is not against the idea, but I feel like it might be too far, too late in the game to make a sequel.
Great movie to watch if you're in high school. Probably one of the best movies to watch if you're in high school.
Oh, definitely. It's also just a great high school movie. Like I said, it's like Breakfast Club meets Scream meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's a very great movie. I love it. It's starting to get more momentum, and it's starting to get recognition. Like I said, they're going to be releasing a 4K physical media of it, I think in December is a rumor, but digitally you could see it in 4K. It looks beautiful. But yeah, highly recommend it.
All right, my next one is 2008, The Ruins, directed by Carter Smith.
Not okay. You keep saying I'm okay. I'm not okay.
Oh, nice.
It stars Jonathan Tucker and Jenna Malone, and it is a movie about tourists who go to Mexico, and there's this big pyramid, and you're not supposed to touch the pyramid. And they touch the pyramid, and because of that, the indigenous people that live around it force them up the pyramid because it's supposed to be like a curse. And when they're up there, they start just experiencing things, and it's difficult to explain without just giving away the whole premise of the movie. But it's just one of those movies where they take a concept that you wouldn't think would work, and they make it work. In my opinion, they make it work, and I just think it's hard to explain like everything that goes on, but it works. It works. And it's a different type of horror movie, and it's not crazy over the top. It's just enough to keep you, to to get you scared, and it's got some scenes that you're like, maybe, but nothing too over the top. It's just a solid all-around movie, and it's a fresh idea. I think that's the best part about it. It's a fresh idea that you don't see all the time.
No, good movie, good choice. I saw it in the theaters. I really liked it. I know it's based off a novel too, but yeah, great film. Definitely some scenes will make you squirm in this movie. But yeah, great choice. Underrated. All right, my next film is Straw Dogs, 1971.
All his life he's been running away, turning his back on trouble, involvement, and confrontation. Until now, Straw Dogs.
The remake, which I have not seen, but 1971 Straw Dogs by the great Sam Peckinpah. This film has Dustin Hoffman. It has, who else is in it? Oh my God, what's her name? Suzanne George. This is film basically Dustin Hoffman and Susan George. They're married. They go to England, which is her hometown. And he's doing he's writing his book on, I forgot what the topic is, but he's a professor on academics, and he's doing his book there. And they're there in this farmhouse that they rented out. And basically she has a history with people in that town. This one guy in particular that likes her, and basically they don't really like him being in the town. They don't. Dustin Hoffman, he's a, they view him as a yuppie. He just rubs them the wrong way. That's a blue collar town. Basically, the locals, invade their home, and a bunch of horror ensues, and in suspense and terror. It's a great film. There's a lot more that I'm leaving out because it's a very shocking film, a movie that would be very difficult to make nowadays, but very well made, beautifully done. But yeah, very brutal movie. It has one of the most disturbing scenes in near the end of the second act, and the ending, the climax is just a perfect filmmaking in my opinion. Have you seen it?
I have, and I know you said you hadn't seen the remake, but the remake is actually pretty good. It's actually one of the better remakes of a movie that I've seen as well. So I would probably check that out, or you as well, since you haven't. The remake stars James Marsden, Kate Bosworth, and Alexander Skarsgård. And it just again, it's a movie. Again, I felt you could get away with different shit back then, And it's definitely a movie of its time.
Yeah.
And the remake, a little bit more toned down, but still I think holds true to the original. And
yeah, I definitely want to see the remake more because I just want to compare. I know it's probably, for me, I know it's not going to be able to top the original because I love the original Straw Dog, so it's a high bar for me. So, but I want to see, because there's some scenes that I'm like, I want to see how they do it in the movie or what they changed, because I know they're not doing the exact same thing that they did in the original.
Yeah, I mean,
watch one the original, specific scene, But yeah.
Watch the original and watch, if you want something a little bit more tamed down. When I say a little bit, it's more tamed down, but it still has the same essence of the film, Watch the remake if you don't want to go full bore on the OG one, but definitely a good film to watch, and it'll make you not trust people is the way, I guess, best way to put it.
Yeah, definitely.
So my next film is 2009's The Loved Ones.
I'm going to stab Holly in the heart, just like you did to me.
It's an Australian flick. It is directed by Sean Byrne, and it is about a girl who asks the popular kid out to prom, and he rejects her. So she takes it upon herself to take him to her own prom, which her dad has helped her set up. And it is just a kooky, loony type of movie. It's just a cool concept. I think that works very well. And again, it's one of those movies that settings are very limited and they make that setting work. And it's very story driven, and acting is very good in that movie with the dad and the girl, who are clearly not all there in the head. And it's just an entertaining movie. And it's one that most people kind of, again, has flown under the radar, but everyone that I know that has seen it says it's a good movie. So I highly recommend it. It's just entertaining. And it's one of those movies where when people see it, I was like, yeah, who showed you that one? It was me.
Yeah, no, I love that movie. I mean, I'm not gonna go on about it too much, but yeah, it's one of the best contemporary horror films ever made. That acting by the girl in the movie, the high school girl, the psycho girl in the movie. What's her name? It's on
Robin McLeavy.
Robin McLeavy should have won an Oscar. She's that good in the movie, in my opinion. But yeah, great film. Definitely watch it. Also watch his other film, Sean Byrne's other film, The Devil's Candy, which is another one I liked a lot. But this movie is top tier horror film. Definitely one that is underrated still and it needs to get more attention. All right, so my next film is Psycho 2.
Killer. 22 years later, Norman Bates is home. Psycho 2.
This is one of the best sequels ever. This is probably the best sequel of all time, in my opinion. If you've seen the original, you got to watch this one. This movie is a masterpiece for a sequel, if there ever was a masterpiece for any sequel. I know people will say Godfather Part 2. No, fuck that. Psycho 2 is the best sequel. This movie is just brilliant. It's directed by Richard Franklin. Came out in 1983, 22 years later after the original. This is a great double feature. Watch the original and then watch Psycho 2. You will be pleased that you did this. This movie is so good. Anthony Perkins comes back. Vera Miles comes back. You have Meg Tilly, Robert Loggia. I mean, phenomenal actors. Dennis Franz. Everything's great. Anthony Perkins is like one of his best performances. The best performance that I've seen in any movie of his. He's better than in the first one, in my opinion. Great murder mystery, great slasher, one of the best endings. You won't see it coming. It's a movie that has twists and turns. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. I love it. I watch it now all the time. So, and I watched this late in the game, probably watched it in 2021. And it's one of those movies that I'm like, damn, I'm mad that it took me this long to watch it. I love it. So you go watch it. Because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I think a lot of people, you hear Psycho sequels, you're like, huh? I didn't really heard about it. I think Psycho's so revered that people automatically dismiss the sequels. This movie is fucking awesome, and it should never be dismissed. Even Psycho 3 is a good time, not as good as Psycho 2, but it's a good trilogy. But yeah, I love it.
I have not seen Psycho 2. I know you love it. Maybe I'll watch it this go round, because I have not seen it. I honestly have no opinion, have not even seen a trailer for this movie ever in my life. Again,
yeah, it's one of those things where you forget. Like I said, I forgot that they even made sequels to Psycho, and then I'm looked into like, man, you got Psycho 2, Psycho 3, and Psycho 4. They got a whole gang of sequels. It's an anthology essentially. So yeah, I think it's underrated, and I think it's starting to get little momentum to start becoming back into the pop culture of films, So, yeah, watch it.
So my next film is 2008's A Stranger.
Why are you doing this to us? Because you were home.
Directed by Brian Bertino. It is a movie about a couple who is played by Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, and they get home, and clearly on the way home, they've had some kind of disagreement. And they're at their farmhouse. And while they're at their farmhouse, they are visited by a trio who is intent on just killing them. That is their only mission. There's no real explanation. And they start toying with them. And it just messes with your head if you're watching it and you are somewhat isolated, not surrounded by houses. If you have big windows where it feels like someone could potentially be looking in, it'll mess with your head. The first time I watched it, I was at a cabin. It had big windows. It was pitch black. There wasn't really any houses around. So to me, that is the way to watch this movie. Because then you start thinking, who's outside? Who can see me? With this movie, I've on trips, to cabins, and things like that. I've always suggest we watch this one. And while we watch it, I sneak out the back and then I fucking stand outside to scare people. It's a perfect movie for that. But overall, it really messes with your head. It makes you.
That's how you end up dying, bro.
It's one of those movies. It's one of those movies where you just start questioning shit because it's dark in the house. you don't know who can see in, who can see out, that kind of stuff. It's just a good time, and it messes with you a little bit. And it's not one you want to watch by yourself. I'll tell you that much, because it's gonna mess with you a little bit.
I love this movie. I mean, I was obsessed with it when it came out. I still watch it like at least once a year. It's a great film. Great. It's just a creepy, unsettling film, like a movie that just kind of has random killers doing something that feels very realistic in the sense like someone just wants to get the thrill of killing. You know
it's
what
like
I mean?
the shit you hear about in the news every day.
Yeah.
You know,
or it just seems kind of no explanation.
Some heinous act is committed, and you're just like, why? And that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, definitely. Just something that's random with a little flair of theatrics with the killer's mask and stuff like that. Very well done. Very, very eerie film. Liv Tyler's great in it. Scott Speisman is good in it. The couple. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Definitely you should watch it.
So with that said, we're going into the final film of the 31 horror movies to watch this October for Halloween. We both agreed on this one.
Yeah.
It is Scream. Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, it is Scream.
Not scared, are you?
Scream 1996, what can I say? I mean, it's a classic, iconic, Ghostface.
It revived the genre.
It revived the slasher genre specifically, a genre that was dead because of all the sequels from Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween. They kind of, dried up the well. And then Kevin Williamson writes this great script, and he brings Wes Craven back to life with Scream, gives him another hit, and rejuvenates this genre. And you get a slew of other films that kind of feel similar, like Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer, even The Faculty, but that one doesn't do the slasher thing necessarily, but just that vibe, that feeling of young kids going against authority, you know what I mean? And self-referential, like they know about horror movies. It's not like those other like the movies in the 80s, they weren't aware of the tropes. In these movies, they're aware of the tropes. But Scream still has the scares, has the comedy, has one of the best opening scenes, in my opinion. I remember the first time I watched it. I don't know if you remember this, but I was younger. I was probably like in 5th grade, but we you know how you would get the cable and you would get Channel 99 sometimes like for a weekend, or like HBO or Cinemax, whatever it was.
HBO for 48 hours or something like that.
48 hours. I remember it got put on because Scream was playing, and I was like, oh shit, we're going to watch it. It was forbidden. For me, it was a movie that I just heard about, hadn't watched it. I remember the opening scene happened. You felt like it was too scary for me, and you turned it off because you thought I was going to get bad dreams, and then I was going to basically get us found out, and we were going to get in trouble because I was too scared the next day or too scared to sleep or something.
Sorry, I have to.
Go ahead.
I have to explain that, okay? Because we didn't watch this when it first came out.
No,
okay?
This was already. It's already been out.
It's been out for a while, right?
Yeah. I was like in 5th grade or something like that. Yeah.
What happened is
maybe younger actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but what happened is it was one time that we rented a Resident Evil game. Okay. And as we rented Resident, we weren't allowed to play those games at all. And we were playing it, and this guy ended up getting sick. And he got like a fever and stuff. And it was Resident Evil Nemesis, I believe. And this guy, when he would
you're complaining time, bro. You're complaining. You're mixing up time.
No.
This was before that. This was before that. What I'm talking about is before that.
No way.
You're about to bring up the wind.
Nemesis.
You're about to bring up like the Windex or shit. Is that what you're gonna bring up right now?
No.
Okay.
No. So Nemesis came out in like '99. Scream had been out for a minute now when we saw it, and we rented it and we're playing the game, and then this guy got sick. So none of us knew. But when this guy like gets a fever, like a pretty high fever, he starts to hallucinate. You're
thinking of the wrong timeline, dude. This is
how let me explain what happened. Okay.
Okay. First of all, no. This is when we're in the apartments, okay? When I'm talking about, not what the other thing happened at a different place. So this is different, but I don't even go into that story. And nothing connected to.
Hold on. This is gonna be highly disputed, no matter what. Okay, no matter what, this is gonna be highly disputed.
I'm not disputing between us. Reality here. I know what
we're gonna argue about this. We're not gonna agree.
Okay, but let's not get into it. No,
because you're making it seem like it's gonna take a minute. It's gonna take a minute.
No. It's
gonna take a minute.
No, it's gonna take a minute because save it, table it. No, it's not connected to the Scream at all.
It is.
You're talking about something.
You said that I didn't let you watch it because I thought it was too scary for you. I need to justify why I didn't let you watch it.
No, you didn't let me watch it. The reason you didn't let me watch it because the opening scene was happening before the opening scene ends with Drew Barrymore. You noticed that I was freaked out by it, but I still wanted to watch it. And you're like, I'm not gonna let you get freaked out and have nightmares and get me in trouble. That's why you didn't let me watch it. It's as simple as that. The incident you're talking about was years later in a different location, in a different place where we live.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this. Okay.
No,
all right, fuck that guy. He's not here, so I'm gonna tell you what really happened. Okay. We rented Resident Evil Nemesis. This guy got sick and he got a fever. So as he has his fever, he starts hallucinating stuff. And like I said, we weren't supposed to be playing these games. And he stands up in the middle of the night. He's sleeping in my mom's room because he's sick and she's taking care of him. He stands up and he starts freaking out and pointing out at like nowhere. And he's like, he's coming, just like freaking out. My mom's like starting to get scared. You don't know what the hell's going on. Who's coming, right? It's like some shit out of a movie, like someone's possessed. The Nemesis is coming. My mom doesn't know what that means at the time, so she is freaking out. And basically, to calm her down, I had to rat on ourselves and basically say that it is the game Resident Evil, and we're playing it, and that's what he's thinking about as he's hallucinating because of this fever. So we got in trouble for that. So when I saw the start of Scream, I was like, F that. This guy's going to get scared. He's going to have a nightmare. If he gets sick, I'm definitely fucked, So I stopped it. I said, you can't watch this because of previous history. And that's all it was. And he's not going to want to admit that. He will never admit that, But yeah, when he was little and he would get sick, he would hallucinate like crazy. And it's comical now, that's for sure. Back then, it scared the shit out of everybody. But yeah, that's the real story there. He's going to deny it forever, but that's the truth.
No, first of all, it's not agree to disagree.
Okay, let's just move on. Let's just move on.
Let's just move on. Talk about Scream. What do you think of Scream? Do you say it enough?
Dude, it was a great movie because it changed the genre. The opening scene is good because if you go in expecting one thing and it already flips the script at the very beginning of it. And then it's not something that at the time people were used to seeing at all. So the sequels, obviously kind of just turned into what other movies do where they start getting repetitive. But the first one revolutionized the slasher film genre and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was great, and it made stars out of people like Sidney Prescott, who's Neve Campbell, Matthew Lillard, Jamie Kennedy, David Arquette, like all of them for
Courtney Cox helped her even more.
Yeah, but they all became household names for the next few years. And
it's honestly also one of the first, it is, in my opinion, the first real like slasher movie that it wasn't the killer that you were following into the next movie. You were following the characters that survived. You're not following, all the other ones like Halloween, you're following Michael Myers. The same guy is coming back, or same murderer. In this one, the same, figure, a ghost face, the costume is coming back, but the thing that's bringing everybody back is the protagonists, the good guys are coming back for the next one. So that was the cool thing about Scream. They kind of flipped it in that way, and you still got the killer, but it's like anybody can be the killer and put on the mask, So I thought that was something interesting that was different from the other slasher films, because the other slasher films, it was the villain who kept coming back, and he was the connective tissue for all the sequels. But this one, it was the victims. So I always liked that a lot.
There you guys have it. 31 films to watch this October for Halloween, 31 horror films to be more specific, let us know if you've seen any of these, which ones you have them watching this Halloween or this October. And let us know if you're a fan of this 31-day Halloween challenge, essentially, of trying to watch a scary movie every night. I mean, it gets pretty difficult at times. It's not easy, but it's something that we attempt every year for, I don't know for how long we've been trying it now.
I never get to do all 31, but I should get a good amount, but it's hard, man. When you have kids, it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. And then, you got other shit to do. Who knows what time you start watching it. And then if you got to wake up early, but yeah, it's a fun time, and it's just a good way to, and a lot of these movies a lot of times end up being on cable. If you're watching cable, they'll end up on a streaming platform just because it's October, and it's Halloween. Yeah. So it's definitely a time to take advantage of that. So those are some good ones to watch. Thank you for tuning in. We'd appreciate if you guys smash a like on the video, show us some support, and we'd appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel. Once again, I'm Nathan. This is Steven, and we are 24 Chambers of Film. Until next time.